Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. It's officially spooky season! I'm so excited! I have so many spooky books on my TBR. I'm taking part in 3 readathons in the month of October. I'm doing Spookopoly, I am doing TBR Harvest, and I am doing Fabelin. I have no idea how this is going to work because Fabelin is a D&D style game that is based on Margaret, the Word Nerd's TBR game that she's kind of adapted into a readathon. I am part of the Shadow Aegis. That is my guild. So I will get bonus points if I read a book with a cover that's more than 40% white. My character is a halfling healer with a staff. So what that means is that I will get bonus points for Kidlit, which according to the video is anything that is not adult. Basically, it's like YA, middle grade, children's, like anything like that would be considered Kidlit, I believe. For healers, that is a list of certain words that will give me bonus points. I don't have a lot of those, but I didn't have a lot of any of the others either from what I could tell, so I kind of went with the one that I felt fit my character best. And then for staff, I get bonus points for reading library books, and I have a lot of library books, so that was kind of why I went with the staff. Plus, I feel like it fits the idea of being a healer. So that being said, we got our first prompt, and we're trying to get into a library, and we've seen this tower, and we can either cut through the vines, or we can go through the window, and I've decided that my character would be more likely to go through the window, which means I need to read a book with a window on the cover. So I'm going to read The Halloween Moon, and as you can see, there are definitely windows on the cover, and Moon is one of the few books that has the word I need on the cover. So I don't know anything about this, but I'm assuming it's going to be a middle grade, spooky, Halloween style book. I don't know if it's fantasy or if it's like contemporary fiction or what, but I am very, very excited to get into this. So that's where I'm going to be starting. I don't know what else I'm going to be reading, if anything. I have till the 3rd, I believe, to read this book. So hopefully I can finish that tonight, and then I can start trying to get some of my side quests done and get some bonus points. So we'll see how that goes. I will probably check back in when the next prompt drops to update you on what I've done and give you an idea of where I'm going. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I have started this brick. So I am on page 80. I finished the first 2 chapters, and I'm intrigued. I can tell you there is something that was mentioned in the first 2 chapters that happens with a character that is based on something that happened to said character in the previous book, and I'm like, say what happened now? Because I legitimately have no memory of that happening. So that's interesting. But, I mean, I suppose it must have. I just apparently did not register that thing happening. Or it's been long enough that I don't remember the thing happening, because it has been several months since I've had to read a Wheel of Time book, and I'm not excited. I'm going to be reading 2. Because apparently the read-along is going to be catching up on New Spring, which is like the prequel. And I thought it was Gathering Storm, so I'd already requested this from the library, both in audiobook and physical form. So I'm like, I've got them. I'm just going to read them. So that's where I'm at. I also put this on my Phase 10 TBR because I needed to read a book over 500 pages, and this was the only book I had access to that I was planning on reading in the month of October that was over 500 pages. So I've already made a dent in that. I mean, it's a little dent, but it's a dent nonetheless. So we're going to see how that goes. But that's where I'm at, is I'm going to try to read my window prompt. We'll enter the library, and we'll go from there. So I will check back in a couple of days when we start Act 2, and I get to find out what my character is doing next, and let you know how it's going. So it is October 5th, and I am checking in. I did remember this week. This has been a week. So Thursday, I decided that I wanted to take my desk that was in my room and get rid of it. It was in rough shape. And I was going to replace it with the desk I had in my spare room. I don't remember now why I ended up with 2 desks, but I had 2 desks. And so I did. But it required completely rearranging my spare room so that I could get at the desk because the desk was kind of buried. So I spent Thursday getting everything moved so I could get that desk out of that room and into my room, and taking my desk out of my room so that we could, take it apart, dispose of it, etc. Only to find out that the desk in the spare room was also not in great shape, but we had already taken apart the desk that had been in my room. So I'm kind of stuck with that right now. I have to keep tightening screws because it wants to come apart. It's just not tight anymore. So I'm going to have to get a new desk at some point. But we're hoping this can work for now because I had some interesting setups. I had a couple of Chewy boxes full of books on the floor with a stepper on top of it that I was sitting at with my computer on top, or I have a stand. And here comes Cielo. That usually houses my fan when I'm sleeping, and has books on it and miscellaneous stuff that I was using that's about the same height as my bed, so I could kind of sit on my bed and do it, but I had to hunch over, and neither one of those was working. So I think this is going to work better than those, but that's where we're at. But I will pop a picture up here of what my room, the spare room looked like. And you can see why it took me all of Friday to reorganize that mess. So it is looking much better now, though I still have to do some lighter work, but I think all of the big furniture has been moved. So reading wise, I haven't necessarily done tons because I've been I spent most of Thursday and Friday dealing with that, and there was just no way to really read. So for Fabelin, we had to complete our first quest by, I think it was either have a sharp object on the cover, and Cielo is just so helpful, guys, or go through a window. No, you can't rub the camera. Like I said, so helpful. Or read a book with a window on the cover. And so I read The Halloween Moon, and I ended up giving this 3 stars. This follows a girl named Esther who's obsessed with Halloween, absolutely loves it, and gets told by her parents that this year you're really, really too old. But she goes out trick-or-treating anyways. The night feels off. Nobody's really answering their doors. There's some strange kids. Something's not right. And basically the only other people who seem to be aware of things that are going on are her best friend, her bully, and an adult neighbor. And so they have to start trying to figure out what is going on and why all this weirdness is happening and how to stop it. And it was just kind of fine for me. A lot of this deals with the idea that Esther wasn't really ready to grow up. There's a lot of focus on some of her feelings with that and getting older and stuff like that. And I wasn't expecting that in a fantasy. I think if I hadn't been reading this for a prompt, I probably would have DNF'd it, but I wanted to get the points for the pages, and it wasn't a particularly long read. It was just it's an average 3-star book. There wasn't really necessarily anything bad about it, but it is going to be one that I'm going to look at this time next year, and I'm probably not going to be able to tell you anything about it. It's not one that's going to stick with me. It was just fine. Then we had side quests we could do, and because I was so busy, I didn't really get to do any of them. I managed one, and that was to read a book with a spooky cover. And so I read The Supernatural Society because if you can see, I don't know with the glare if you can see, but there are eyes in the trees, and I thought that was kind of spooky. This follows a boy named Hunter whose parents have gotten divorced. He and his mom are moving to a new town, and the only friend he's got is his dog. And then his dog goes missing. There's one other thing. This town, it's full of monsters. In the description it says, the crossing guard is a minotaur, his teacher is a mummy, the librarian is a lamia, that's a half woman, half snake for those who don't know. And there are secret codes hidden all over the place. So he's moved to this spooky new town. He's the only one that can see these monsters. His mom can't see it, is acting like he's just causing a fuss to cause a fuss. And then he ends up kind of befriending a super smart boy named Linus, who's very, very scientific, and meets Linus's sister, Ivy, who also coincidentally can actually see all of these things. So the three of them kind of have to put their heads together to figure out what is going on and kind of try to rescue his dog, Will's dog, and other pets that have gone missing. And this was another 3-star for me. This book was just kind of there. It's another one that I think if I hadn't been reading it for a prompt, I probably would have DNF'd it, because I'm trying to be better about reading books that I think are going to be just fine and nothing special and moving on from them. I thought it was interesting seeing the kids try to convince Linus that this thing is happening and how they have to go about doing that, because he's so scientific and literal, and like, he is one of those people that if you don't give him proof, he won't believe it. And because of whatever magic is going on in this town, he can't see the things they see or hear the things they hear. So it is really interesting seeing them do that. This is the first in a series, and I don't care enough to continue the series, so it won't be one I'm adding to my spreadsheet, but it got me spooky cover. It was a quick read, and maybe if I had read it as a kid, I would have enjoyed it more. This and this one could literally just be more of a, they are perfect for middle graders, but as an adult reading a middle grade, it didn't work for me. But they're fine. There's nothing bad about them. They're just fine reads. I also don't know if my camera is picking it up, but my dad is out blowing leaves and acorns. So if you can hear that in the background, I apologize. But it is relatively quiet in the house, so I thought it was a good time to film. Then, one of the things I did work on a giant chunk this week when I wasn't working on that was The Gathering Storm, which is book 12 in The Wheel of Time, and I'm on page 275, so I'm actually making some decent progress in this. We're following some of the characters that I enjoy more in this one, so I'm enjoying it at the moment. We'll see if that continues, but I only have like a week or less left with this audiobook, so this is absolutely a book I need to spend a chunk of time on. It was also perfect for when I was like moving things off of my desk and moving, because I have books here in the doorway that needed to get out of the way, because they're like, I'll turn you this way. Do you see how they're like stacked up? So those needed to come out of the way because I didn't want to have to lift the desk up and over them. It was bad enough I had to do it over the bookshelf. So like, and you're stacked on some books right now, because this desk is not as high as the other one. Because I had like the old desk had like the main desk, and then there was like a shelf thing, and I used to film on that. But anywho, I'm going to be filming my figuring out my filming setup too, so the background might change periodically. But this was perfect for that, because I can concentrate on this book without needing a physical book. And honestly, I'm far more into this one right now than I was into either one of these, and that is just absolutely amazing to me. So I'm actually enjoying this so far, and it feels like it's going to be in the 4-star range, maybe even my favorite book in the series as things stand right now, but I still have a lot of book to go, so that could change. Then, in the midst of the chaos yesterday of me knowing I needed to spend most of my day putting the spare room back together into some semblance of order, Act 2's prompts dropped. So I'm not going to be able to remember them, I think, off the top of my head. But we have 3 like quests we have to fill that are like main parts, and the options I chose, I will try to remember to note them for the end of the vlog, to let you know, because I should be through these books before the end of the vlog. That's the plan, is to read a book with weather on the cover or in the title. And so I'm going to read the Shock and Paw, because as you can see, it's snowing. I'm actually 142 pages into this. This is the 6th, 7th book, something like that, in the Cat Cafe Mystery Series. And it follows, what is her name? Maddie, who in the first book goes back to this island where she grew up, as her grandmother has recently died, and is trying to, help her grandfather through his grief. And I believe he becomes the main suspect in a murder. So she ends up staying and ends up moving to the island and opening this cat cafe with her grandfather, and has a lovable cat named JJ. This one is set at Christmas time, and it's not my favorite in the series. It is feeling very like 3.5 maybe. Right now, like I said, I'm 142 pages into the book, and we're supposed to be, I mean, obviously we're dealing with Christmas, which isn't really what I want to be reading in spooky season, but I got my hands on the book, and it's like perfectly covered for this. So we're dealing with Christmas shenanigans, and her best friend, Maddie's best friend, works for the paper, and the owner of the paper decides she's going to sell the paper, which her friend Becky is very unhappy about. And then I believe the owner of the paper is going to turn up dead. And Becky is going to become the main suspect, so Maddie is going to investigate. I'm assuming she's going to rope her grandfather in on this because he is a PI that used to be on the force. So it's going to be interesting, but we're 142 pages in and the death hasn't happened yet. So I think that's part of it, is that there's a lot of stuff going on, but like, I feel like we haven't gotten to the meat of the potatoes, and I'm worried that the meat and the potatoes of this mystery is going to be rushed because we haven't gotten there yet, but we'll see. We had to do that one first. Then we have to, I think it's like deal with a vortex or something. I don't know. Again, I will try to remember to note this for when I wrap this up. But the option I chose was to read a book with a shadow on the cover, and you can see in the back there is a shadow on the wall. So I'll be reading the fourth Lockwood & Co book for that, The Creeping Shadow. I don't know what's going on in this one, but I'm very excited to continue on with this series. And for the last prompt, I chose to read a book with wings on the cover. So there are my wings. We have a bird. This is the second book in the Mysterious Benedict Society. So this should be a fast read. So I'm expecting to be able to get through these this weekend. So when I wrap this vlog up on Tuesday, I'll be done with these. And then I can move on to the Act 2 side quests, because I will have till the 12th, I believe. So I should be able to get through a chunk of those. I just haven't sat down and really looked at them to see what on my TBR fits them, though there are recurring ones that are worth 100 points. You can get more points by reading some of the others, but the recurring ones that'll be there for every quest, I believe, is Buddy read a book and you get 100 points. Read a book by an LGBTQ plus author and you get 100 points. Or read a book by a BIPOC author and you get 100 points. So I'm trying to fulfill some of the like heavier ones, but there is definitely that represented in various books on my TBR. So we'll see what I end up doing, but that's where I'm at. It's been a long couple of days, like a long couple of days. Because there's just, I don't know what made me think it was a good idea. And I'm on week 1 of a detox. So I'm also being very careful about what I eat and what I'm allowed to eat and all of that, because I was in a lot of pain. And I know from past experience that this is a good way to take care of that pain. Like, this will make me feel physically better. It gets me into a better eating routine. I think I've mentioned it before on here. I'm a food addict. So I really, really struggle with food. And when things go off the rails, I struggle with that. So this is a hard reset for me in October. And so far I'm actually feeling really, really good. So I'm actually kind of glad I did it, because I mean, we're, again, not even 5 full days in October and I already feel like a huge difference, just not eating the way I was and in choosing to make better choices for myself. So we'll see how this goes and see if I can catch up on some stuff now that I'm not rearranging furniture. Though, like I said, I still have a ways to go. There's a lot of organizing to do, but that is a lot easier than, like I said, moving around furniture. So hopefully I'll have more time to read. And when I check back in to wrap this vlog up, I will be able to give you a giant update with a bunch of books. And hopefully I will enjoy them more than the first 2 I've read this month. So this has become a cheeky 8-day vlog because I just completely forgot to check in yesterday because I had a phone call that I had to get up for this morning, so I was running on low sleep. And then Dynamite was tonight instead of tomorrow night, so my brain was all over the place, and I never sat down to check in, and I didn't realize it until really late that I was supposed to check in and wrap up the vlog, and I didn't. So you're just going to get an 8-day vlog. Hopefully that's cool. So it has been quite a week. The spare room is still undergoing some changes. It's a lot of organizing now, although if you look all the way over there, it's now all middle grade. All 3 of these shelves are middle grade, and the shelf over here that this sits on is also middle grade. So my room is filled with middle grade books. I have lots and lots and lots and lots of them, but I kept, for the most part, like a little bit of wiggle room on the shelf so that if I need to slot a book in, I do have a little bit of wiggle room, because I was able to get the spare room set up in a way where the bookcases that I had in here, the black ones, I had just set them in the spare room and they were kind of just gathering dust and cat hair. Actually, throughout part of the summer, the cats were sleeping on them, so I just kind of left them. But during my reorganization, I was able to get one of the bookcases kind of cleaned up, and most of my YAs are on that right now. So pretty happy with that. There will probably be more rejiggering as I continue to work on it, because there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm like sorting through and trying to figure out what I want to do with, while also, you know, maintaining other stuff. But it's in a place where nobody's going to get hurt, which was like that first night we had to shut the door because the cats would have hurt themselves. So I'm happy that it's in a position where like I can go in and sort if I want to, but like the cats also can be in there because they don't like not being in there. So we kind of have a plan there. Anywho, reading wise, because I haven't done any editing. I need to do some sprinting. I'm just all over the place. And whenever it is you watch this, I hope that you have been patient with me, because life has been a little bit off the wall lately for me when it comes specifically to things that make it hard to focus on, you know, watching myself back and talking on camera and stuff. Anywho, so I believe last time I checked in, I mentioned I was partway through Shock and Paw. I would hold the book up, but my mom's got it now because she's reading it. I ended up giving this 3.75 stars, partly because I was reading a Christmas book in spooky season, which is not the book's fault. So if I had read this in February or December or July, I probably would have liked the vibes a little bit more. It's just completely anti the vibes I want right now. So there was no way to separate that from my rating, because I also wasn't super invested in the mystery going on. It was not my favorite mystery in the series. I also felt like it was a bit softer on some of the kind of ties in like the cozy mystery genre. There's usually things that kind of span all the books, relationship stuff like that, and I feel like this one in particular just did not have the same vibes. Like there was just some off about it that didn't completely click with me. So I mean, there were things I liked, and I kind of liked how you had these 3 separate mysteries going on, because you had a dead body that was going to show up at some point, and you knew that based on reading the back that Maddie's best friend was going to be a prime suspect. There was this shady electrician running around who people weren't sure about, and then there were these like cat breeders who were like breeding cats for money and selling them at crazy costs, so they were trying to look into that too. So I like how some of that played out, but I just wasn't as invested in figuring it out. So not my favorite, but it is still a series I plan to go back to. we have company, and she's trying to figure out the new setup. Come here. Okay. Come here. Come here. Oh! So here she is, guys. Everybody's favorite little helper. Next, I read The Creeping Shadow, and I'm not going to keep holding it up because I'm sure you guys would rather see the cat. I ended up giving that 4.25 stars. This is the 4th book in the Lockwood & Co. mystery series, which follows our main character of Lucy as she joins Lockwood & Co., which is like a ghost hunting kind of company. They basically are a group of kids that kind of deal with ghosts, ghouls, goblins, things that go bump in the night, because only the young can see them. And she ends up joining Lockwood & Co., which is a agency that does this with Lockwood and George. And like I said, we see everything from Lucy's point of view, and I really, really enjoyed this one. Like a lot. I think this is easily my favorite. I thought it was really, well, spooky and creepy. It definitely gave me those spooky vibes. There was no reading it at night. I really liked the development we saw with Lucy in this one, and how she kind of grew as a character throughout this book, and how it really demonstrates just how much has changed. I'm very, very excited with the way it seems to have set up book 5, because book 5 is the last book. So I'm very excited to get to that next month. So all in all, this was a very, very fun book. And I thought it was a perfect way to kind of set up the end of the series and that last book and make me very invested in picking it up. And if my October TBR was not as bloated as it was, I'd be tempted to just pick it up now. So very excited to finish that one up, and very, very much the vibes I was looking for, unlike the last one. In a random turn of events, this came out of my TBR jar and ended up being perfect for one of my Fabling prompts. So I read The Mysterious Benedict Society and the Perilous Journey. Okay, she's turning around, guys. And I gave this 3.25 stars. So this is the second book in the Mysterious Benedict Society series, which follows a group of kids who all have some sort of special abilities or talents that makes Mr. Benedict kind of look for them and find ways to get in touch with them. And she's caught. There you go. In the first book, because they need to save the world and they need a group of kids that can help them do that, because the kids are needed to infiltrate a location that only the kids can go to. And in this one, we're kind of seeing a new adventure for these kids that we met in the first book. And I didn't enjoy the adventure in this one as much as the first book. I did like the growth of the characters that we saw, like the kids and the growth that we see in them and the way they handle situations and things. She's going to rub against the camera. Hey, we can't rub against the camera. Come here. Come here, come here, come here, come here. Oh, she's so helpful. I do like that we see that they've learned some things from their first adventure, and they learn things in this one. So I did like that we see some growth. This isn't, again, my favorite series, but if it comes out of my jar, I've got no problem picking it up. So that's probably going to be how I finish it at some point, because like I said, it's a perfectly fine middle grade series, and maybe I would have liked it more when I was a middle grader, but as an adult, it's just not clicking with me the same way. Then, I was just checking. I always have a list so that I make sure I have all of my books in the ratings, because I will confuse things. I realized, I'm almost positive that I said I gave this 4.25 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. I know as I was saying, I was like, this does not feel right. Something feels like I'm saying something wrong. That was the thing I said wrong. So I gave this 4.5 stars. Sorry about that. I gave this one 4.25 stars. I always rate them down because I want to make sure I've gotten all of the books I've read this week, because, like, for instance, I didn't have the physical copy of Shock and Paw, or I want to make sure if I've read an ebook or an audiobook that I remember to note that I've read them or DNF them or whatever in the video. So I always have a notepad. This one seems to have had notes for other videos on it. So you can see, I usually have a little notepad just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything or confusing ratings in my head. Or like if I was waffling between two numbers, that I got the right one, the one I decided on when I was really thinking about it. Anywho, you can see I'm kind of all over the place. And Cielo did not help. She's not helpful in that regard, because it's something else I need to focus my attention on. Anywho, Bridge of Souls. This is the third and, from what I can tell, final book in the Cassidy Blake series. And this follows, well, Cassidy Blake, who has a near-death experience and leaves it being able to see ghosts, including her best friend Jacob. Her parents have no clue she has the ability to see ghosts. And the fun thing is they're going to be hosting this, like, ghost hunting, like, going to spooky haunted places kind of TV show. And Cassidy gets to tag along, and of course she can see the ghosts that they can't. So she's definitely gotten into some sticky situations in the first two books. In this one, she's headed to New Orleans, which of course is full of ghosts, and once again finds herself in a sticky situation that she has to figure out how to get out of. And I just really, really enjoyed this. Another one that gave me those spooky vibes I'm looking for. So the vibes were absolutely perfect. I've been saving this for spooky season. I had like penned it in at the beginning of the year of, this is the year I'm going to finish this series. I'm going to read it in October, and I actually got to it. I really, really like the relationship between Cassidy and Jacob and how it has changed over the 3 books. I love how this one kind of came together and wrapped up. I love that there are threads, because I did read something, because I was looking to see if this was the last book or if Victoria Schwab had anything else planned. And it looks like this is the end of this trilogy, but there is the potential for future books set in this world, and I can kind of see different places that could pop up and arise. So very, very curious about that and would absolutely be down to pick those up. I just absolutely adore the series. I think it's such a good, fun, spooky middle grade series, and I had a really good time with it, and it was exactly the vibes I was looking for. So those are all the books I finished. Speaking of vibes I was looking for, last night I picked up Legends and Lattes. This is a reread for me, and it was kindly gifted to me by Aaron. I have your gift note right here, Aaron. But I have it kind of held there because I kept dropping it last night and I didn't want to lose it. So thank you again, Aaron, for sending this to me. Like I said, this is a reread, and this is a cozy fantasy that follows Vib, who is an orc and wants to open a coffee shop in this town where these people don't know what coffee is. And she used to be like a missionary and just really kind of wants to settle down and get out of that life because she fell in love with coffee when she got introduced to it and wants to share that love with the world. And we kind of see her settle down and open up a coffee shop. It's, as it says on the back, a novel of high fantasy and low stakes. And so we're kind of seeing her set up this coffee shop and the pitfalls that she's following. This is not spooky in the slightest, but it gives me that cozy vibe. This like nice little friendship group that's forming, like a found family type aspect, which is one of my favorite tropes. It was everything I wanted it to be, and I had to force myself to put it down because it was 4 a.m. and I had to get up for a phone call. I wanted to finish this so badly last night, and I just could not do it because I have, I think, a little over 2 hours left in the audiobook, and at the speed I'm listening to that at, I think it's probably another good 45 minutes. I just couldn't justify staying up that long, you know? So I ended up putting it down, and I did not get time to go back to it today, but mainly because I wanted to be able to just sit and read that last bit all in one go, and I knew there was no point during the day where I had time to do that. So absolutely loving my reread of this. I see no reason this won't get 5 stars. Once again, just, I love this book so much. And it is, again, the exact vibes I'm looking for. Then tonight I did pick up Spy Family Volume 3. I finally got this from the library. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have through Volume 7 that I'm hoping to read this month, and then next month I'm hoping I can catch up. This is a manga series that follows Twilight, who is a spy, and he's going on a mission where he has to get close to this guy who's integral to keeping peace in their world, but the only place he makes public appearances is at his son's school. So he ends up adopting a child who he doesn't know can read minds, and going into like a fake sham marriage with a woman he doesn't know is an assassin. And hilarity has ensued from this because obviously the child knows everything that's going on with anybody, and it is so much fun watching Twilight and Yor hide their secrets from one another and how things keep getting trickier. I am absolutely loving this. There is one thing in this one I'm not enjoying as much as I have in some of the other books. We'll see how it goes, but I still think that this is a really, really fun manga series, and I'm very happy to have picked it up. So very curious to see where this one goes. I'm like that far in, so hopefully I can finish this tomorrow. And then my very last update is this beast. I am now on page 480. So given everything, I've made really, really good progress. I'm hoping to finish this tomorrow, mainly because I'm going to lose the audiobook, which means I still have a good chunk of it left to read. But I do think it's doable. I think it's a little less than, or like a little more than 4 hours would have to sit down and listen to. I mean, it's like 12 hours and something, but I think it'll take me 4 hours at the speed, a little over 4 hours at the speed I'm listening to it at. And I think that is doable for tomorrow if I focus. I'm hoping to sprint tomorrow, which should help. Anywho, this is book 12 in the Wheel of Time series, and honestly, I think this is one of my favorites. And I was nervous because I had read Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson ages ago and hated it. Just did not get on with it. And funnily enough, I am going to be doing a Brandon Sanderson read-along thing with Omi. If anybody wants to join us, we are going to be working our way in, well, starting in 2025. We will not be finishing it in 2025. Reading the entire works of Brandon Sanderson. We're going to be starting with Mistborn. I'm a little nervous because, like I said, I didn't like it the first time, but I was a very different reader back then, so I'm hoping if I read it now, maybe I'll have a better appreciation of it, and this is how I'm going to set that down. And honestly, it is a book that I did not like, that I read in 2019, and I still remember a bunch of the details. That speaks volumes about some of the stuff that stuck with me, because it threw me into one of the worst reading slumps I've ever been in my entire life. But I thought the magic system was really interesting, and that stuck with me. I'm not sure how much I can tell you about the characters, but the magic system really, really stuck with me. And so I'm very curious to go back and read it now that I've gotten more into adult fantasy and I know what I like and don't like in it, and see if it clicks with me better the second time around. I've also heard that Mistborn Era 2 is like a Western kind of vibe, and a lot of people don't jive with it, but I kind of jive with Westerns, so I'm very curious to see, like, if I like that era more, but I gotta get through the first era first, so we'll see. Anyways, I was a little nervous going into this because Robert Jordan died before he could write this book, and I was nervous about whether I was going to like this with Sanderson writing, and so far I think I like it more than I've liked any other book in this series. So make of that what you will. I think this is definitely going to be a 4-star read unless something goes tragically wrong in the latter half of the book. So quite excited to see how this wraps up. And that was my week. Well, my 8 days. It has been a very, very long 8 days. Like, I feel like this 8 days has been more like a month, to be honest, with everything I've crammed in. Hopefully you will see this before the end of October. That's the goal. I just want to be caught up on everything by the end of October. I don't know how realistic that is, given the insane amount of books I put on my October TBR, but I've already scaled back November and December because I went in and looked at books I had been hoping to get to, seeing if they still hit now compared to when I added them, and moving them into 2025, some of them, because I realized I was getting to the point where I was going to overwhelm myself more so than I already have. So we're going to see how it goes. And hopefully next week will go a little bit smoother, and I will be able to actually start to claw back at some of this and get back on track a little bit. Anywho, I'm going to wrap this vlog up here. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me pumpkin emojis. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!